Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. It is the 6th of November and we're going to do an update today on Bitcoin. So, as it stands, we are right smack bang in the middle of the US election, waiting for the outcome. Who's going to win, Biden or Trump? I have to say, this is probably one of the biggest events that could impact the markets that I have probably ever come across. I'm really expecting the outcome of this US election really to determine the ongoing trend for at least the next 6 months. It is such a huge event. The whole world is watching. Essentially, what happens in the US will have shockwaves across the globe. So, really important as to what happens in this election, and it's really gone to the wire. Obviously, as it's looking right now, it's looking like Biden is edging it, especially if he gets Pennsylvania, which could be potentially declared quite soon. But then there's more to it. It could be contested. Well, it looks like it will be contested. It looks like there will be court actions sought. Who knows? It could be weeks before we get an eventual answer. So we have to factor that into the technical analysis as well. I'm not going to give my views on who I want to win. This is not a political channel. And to be honest, as soon as you start wanting a certain outcome, it's probably going to swing your emotions and impact on your trading, which is never a good thing. So I'm getting ready for any eventuality. But as I say, I think this could be a huge inflection point in the markets. You will have heard of recent where in my last few videos I've been talking about a potential top in the US indices, and that's still on the cards certainly. These are the kind of things we're going to discuss. Main thing we want to discuss in today's video is going into this US election, this major catalyst. How is Bitcoin going to react? Now, I'm going to mention how I've been anticipating if it did make it, through 11.5k, which it eventually did. The target was around 16k. Now that we've arrived at this point, we're going to home in on kind of, more precise targets that we're looking at. And on top of that, the kind of play that we can kind of expect, I'll explain the way I'm looking to trade it. And these are the things we're going to go through in today's video. So if interested, stay tuned. Alright guys, it's good to be doing another video again. I know it's been about just over 2 weeks since my last video. I think, 19th of October. So that was an interesting time indeed. And I'll basically carry on from where I left off. Yes, just so there's a bit of continuity with the analysis. Now, basically in that video, we had this Pitchfork on, and I was mentioning my preferred count, the count that I was thinking was going to play out, which was the major WXY, which was this 3-wave down to make W, this being the X, and then we were going to see an eventual Y, which was 3 waves in itself, with the second wave to here, and then to roll over. Admittedly, this did come up higher than expected, making it all the way to the upper median line of this Pitchfork. And the invalidation point was the upper median line of the Pitchfork. So once it came back, this is where I was getting a bit concerned about the count. And once it stayed above the upper median line here, this was the invalidation point. At that point, I said, look, this count is no longer valid. That was the invalidation point triggered. And the next target that I was looking at was a move up to 16k. So I mentioned in the last YouTube video, you'll probably notice my last tweet as well, I think on the 21st of October also. So we were looking around that 16k range. That's what we've kind of been following within the group since that break above 11.5k. And I was anticipating it to go up fast. Reason being is I expect it to tie in with the next major catalyst on the horizon, which is the US election. Obviously now we are right smack bang in the middle of it, and yes, it could drag on a little bit longer. We could get a lot more volatility coming in. There's two main catalysts that I see. One is the outcome of the US election, and the second catalyst is the reaction to that election. So these are the two main catalysts which I believe are going to really impact on price action, and we still don't have the first catalyst yet finalized. So we're going to still see a lot of chop, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatile movements in the chart before it really develops any major direction, which I think is going to wait until we get the final confirmation as to who wins from the US election. So yeah, we can remove this pitchfork now. It's no longer required. So let's just hide that one. So yeah, basically let's look first of all at the Elliott wave count. What kind of play out am I now looking at? Because obviously I was looking at the WXY originally with us potentially coming down to a 2.2k. Now this is a huge show of strength. And it's worth noting, not only has Bitcoin gone up here, but it's gone up a lot stronger relative to altcoins. You will have seen Bitcoin dominance chart also surging to the upside. So it's a really strong statement here from Bitcoin. And to me, what it's telling us is, even if it does come down eventually, even if the stock markets, start retracing and all other assets start coming down, if we do go into a more dramatic recession, to me, it's telling us that we're going to see some resilience in Bitcoin. And for that reason, I'm of the opinion now that it's unlikely that we take out this low or this low. And the way I'm looking at it now, I'd have to say the personality of Bitcoin is, after it makes these parabolic moves up as it did towards the end of 2017, the resultant price action very often plays out in a converging symmetrical triangle. So I'm basically looking at that now. I'm looking at this as the first three waves down. So first, second, third, and then again 3 waves up, first, second, third. So that's the A and your B of your triangle. So really, as I say, I've got that bias that I still see that the stock markets are going to retrace following the outcome of the US election, and that is going to correlate with Bitcoin also retracing. But as I say, I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as a lot of other assets. I think it's a market that's going to have a lot of resilience. There's a lot of other markets that will also be expected to have resilience also. Anything related to, green energy, anything with regards to, a kind of electric cars, 5G. There's a lot of markets, anything that's adapted to work online, artificial intelligence, all of these markets will likely have resilience during any recession. But yeah, Bitcoin, as I say, is one of them. I can't say the same for altcoins. Looking across the whole of the top 15 market caps, they are looking weak, incredibly weak, looking like they're just getting ready to roll over further, which is one of the reasons which gives me that bias that we're probably going to see price correct here also in Bitcoin. So just to demonstrate the triangle with some annotation, so looking at that as an A, this is your B, and then would come down in the C. Yeah, in terms of targets, we'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, C, D, and E. Yeah, so a converging nature to it. A preliminary target for C, you would probably look at either a 0.618 or 0.786 retracement on the linear scale. Let's say it does come up to this upper black line, which we'll talk about the reason for that line in a moment. But yeah, let's go on the linear, and you've got your 0.786 at 6,500, which ties in with this long consolidation where price found value for a good amount of time. So it's reasonable to say it could retrace that far. As I say, because it's likely to be a market with some resilience, you may only find it coming down to the 0.618, which is around 8,700. Yeah. So this is all keeping in mind that this is all correlating with a bias that stock markets and also impacting on Bitcoin as well will retrace following the outcome of the US election. Okay, I'll talk about the alternative scenario in a moment, but yeah, this is what I believe is the most probable outcome, and it's certainly what I'm preparing for. So we'll see how that plays out. So yeah, that's the symmetrical triangle I'm looking out for, and there is one other argument for, if we on the subject of symmetrical triangles, you could argue that's your A, B, C, and then your D, and a very, very shallow E has come in here. There is the argument for that, which would give a potential argument for this looking quite impulsive going up. Yeah. However, if you go on the monthly volume, you'll notice the monthly volume here is not particularly high at all. It is below average, which makes me really dubious about this being impulsive. And to me, it's looking all part of the termination of a larger corrective pattern. Yeah, so as I say, that would be the bullish argument. That is if we push above these key resistance levels, which I'll talk about in detail in a moment. But yeah, I don't think that this is to play out the ABCDE triangle this way, though it is a possibility. On the subject of these triangles, when I say it's the personality of Bitcoin, just going back on the log scale, I just want to show you, going back, as I say, here's your parabolic move up, and what happens as a result, you get this kind of converging price action, and that is demonstrated here again all the way back here. So again, here's your parabola, what happens, A, B, C, D, E, and then you continue your strong trend higher. I'm not saying you always get triangles, you obviously get other kind of playouts as well. Again, this was a rather strong move up, and it was more of a zigzag down. But yeah, once you get that really nice curve playing out, it seems to be that it likes to do that kind of consolidating symmetrical triangle type play out. And there's a few more examples of it. Again here, really strong surge high here, and then again you come down in the A, B, C, D, and E, and then with your next leg up. Here again on this time frame, it's looking a little bit squashed, the price action. But again, you get like an A, B, C, D, and E for your next leg up, and all the way back here. Again, it's looking pretty ugly on this time frame, but you get your strong move up, and again you get your A, B, C, D, and E. Now there are a few difficulties in calling it a triangle because the volume profile within all of these playouts is not always perfect. Generally you want a descending volume profile, but there's, needless to say, regardless of all of that, you are definitely seeing this converging price action following these aggressive moves up. You're just seeing price kind of coil with higher lows and lower highs, getting into a much tighter range, and that tight range is often the signal before, you know, the next major move higher. Yeah, so that is kind of, as I say, that's the personality of the chart that I'm seeing looking back over the last 10 years of price action in Bitcoin. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same kind of play out with a symmetrical triangle again. So that's what I'm kind of looking at here on Bitcoin. That's what I'm favoring. So I don't think it takes out this low. As I say, it could, I'd probably be favoring the 0.618 retracement coming to in and around 8,700. That's the kind of preliminary target I'll be looking at right now. But first things first, I want to see how price reacts around these horizontal levels, which we'll talk about, as I say, in just a moment. If we go on the monthly, I just want to highlight, because I did briefly allude to the low volume that we're seeing here on the monthly chart with the price action going higher, and you'll see, you know, we're constantly between the 20 period average here with the volume spikes despite these strong moves up. I mean, on the linear scale, this was a huge Marubozu candle coming up here, and unfortunately the volume didn't really validate it as being a true directional candle. And so I would not be surprised, especially if this resultant candle is also on sub-average volume, I would not be surprised for it to, you know, start coming down quite quickly. So again, another reason for why I'm looking at this is all part of a bit of a correction higher. That said, there is a bit of room to the upside for it to further squeeze into, which time would allow for it on the in view of the fact that the US election is obviously still to be determined. That allows a bit more time for that inflection point to be established. So yeah, that's the volume. Some other key things that I want to talk about is, so let's just quickly look at Camarilla pivots. They are quite key as well. I'm going to start on the highest. We'll start on the weekly. Weekly Camarilla pivots are very, very key. Let's take off other annotations. So I've mentioned the significance of these weekly Camarilla pivots before, because obviously it marked out the low where we hit the S4 here, and then we reached the R4 for the following year. And then once we closed this year beneath the R3, it was a signal that there was a level of weakness. And what you often see is going into the next period, the next year, you are likely to see resistance at the next significant Camarilla pivot level, which would be R3 or R4. And you can see here at the R3, it just shot down, but it was very reassuring to see it hold the S3 as support. And from there, it was a really strong move up, and it kind of consolidated beneath the R3, telling us that it was about to go higher. And it now, we are above the R4. So this is a definite show of strength, but what is important is how it finishes the year. Yeah, because you'll see you get these wicks higher very often. You can break beneath the S4 or go above the R4, but it's how the year closes that is significant. So I mean, if the year closes above the R4, to me, Bitcoin is going to absolutely fly higher. Yeah, no doubt about it. That's what the Camarilla pivots will be telling me. But as I say, going off my bias, what I'm kind of expecting is, soon, probably within this month, to be back beneath this R4. And certainly before the end of the year, I'd expect us to be beneath the R4, which would signal a bit more downside into our next period on the Camarilla pivot. So that's on the weekly. Now, if we look on the daily, we are coming into a bit of resistance here on the daily. You can see us just finding a bit of resistance here. Again, I do think there's a bit of room to the upside, but as I say, it might just be wicks to the upside with us then coming down, because I'll talk about the heavy resistance just above these levels in a moment. So yeah, some good strength here. It'll be interesting to see how it reacts around the R4. At present, I'm of the opinion that we've certainly got another leg higher. You'll see if you zoom in on the 15-minute chart that we're just forming what looks like a bull flag, in my opinion, getting ready for the next leg up. If we go on the hourly now, again, these Camarilla pivots confirming the uptrend, very nice breach of the R4, telling us that we're in a strong uptrend, and likely, we've got at least going into the next week, probably going to see higher highs developing. And then if we go on the 15-minute now, if we take a look at this, again, what I was saying is on the 15-minute, you can see this is not looking impulsive to the downside. It's coming down in a flag, and it looks like it's got another leg up. What I wanted to see here was obviously yesterday's price action here. When you're going on the 15-minute, each period is 1 day. So we've gone above the R4, telling us we're in a strong uptrend. What you then look for going into your following period, the following day, you want to see support off of the S3 or S4. And as long as we close the day above the S3, this is showing strength, confirming that this is just a continuation pattern, getting ready for the next leg up. And the way it's looking, we've not got long before the end of the day. I do see us holding above this point. It would be a good show of strength, telling us likely over the weekend we're going to see price take out this high at 16k and push on to the next target, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So that is the Camarilla pivots. Very, very interesting. I use them again and again in my analysis. It's very good for gauging the sentiment within the markets. So that is the Camarilla pivots. Now let's talk about some horizontal levels to determine why I'm talking about 16k as a target. Why have I mentioned 16.6k in the thumbnail to the video as being a key level? So let's talk about these kind of price levels. So let's take off the Camarilla pivots now. Let's bring on our annotations. So first of all, just basic, we're on the log scale, just basic fibs first of all. Actually, we want to go on the linear scale to look at the fib retracement. So from the all-time high down to this low here. As I say, I'm still looking at this as a corrective move up. And what I've been looking at is on the linear scale, as I say, I've been looking at that 0.786 level to get tagged. And that sits at 16.157. So that was basically what I was telling the group was my general target here, at least around the 0.786. And to be honest, once it reached around 16k, for me, that was my take profit level. I take everything off the table. I don't care if it does push up another $1,000 or so. You know, from 11.5 up to this point, I think is a pretty nice move, a very nice place to take profits around 16k. Not going to let greed take the better of me. I do think, yes, there is that possibility for it to go higher, but what I want to see it do is push above the key levels if it is going to go and become bullish, and then retest them, maybe consolidate with a bull flag. That's what I'd be looking out for. You know, a bull flag either just beneath or above my main targets would be a huge show of strength. It'd be a huge show of strength. I don't think it's going to happen, but yeah, that would be the show of strength that I would be looking for in order to jump in on a new long position. As I say, right now, I feel like it's a take profit level for any longs. Although that said, looking at the 15-minute chart, certainly from an intraday point of view, there is a position that could be taken intraday. So yeah, that's the first level that I wanted to discuss. So we've got that 16.148 here as the 0.786 fib retracement. Okay, so there's that one. And then I generally use what I call these ODBs. So it's the oldest daily block. So we're on the daily time frame, and if you just home in on this bit of price action, we go to the oldest bit of price action where you've got basically your order blocks, and I've highlighted basically it was these two red candles. These really stand out to me. This is the oldest bit of daily price action that's given an order block here around these price levels, and I marked them out, the top of the range being 16.6k. So that explains the thumbnail figure that I gave of the 16.6k, and the bottom level was 14.6. It was a level I was monitoring. I did expect us to overcome that quite reasonably, and it has shot through it. But yes, 16.6 is still to be tested. I'm very interested to see how it reacts around that level. You can argue this level here, 17.16, could also be significant. Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. But my main focus is on 16.6. That is the one that I think is going to be the ultimate test for Bitcoin. I'm very interested to see how it reacts at that level. You can obviously argue on the weekly. If you go on the weekly, sorry, let's go all the way across. Yeah, there is the level here that we're currently testing, and that's 16.17. Yeah, so that's further giving reasons for that 16.1k that we're very, very close to, which was in keeping with the 0.786 fib retracement. There's nice confluence with that. But as I say, I go off the daily. I find that daily closes carry a lot of significance. That's the kind of levels that the high time frame traders are often monitoring. Of course, the weekly close is important as well, but I generally go off the daily close. So yeah, that's the reason for these horizontal targets. 16.148 is the main target that I'm looking at. We could push up to 16.6. There is one other target after that. If you use on the log scale, if you do a fib extension of this move up here, extend it from the bottom here, and you've got your one-to-one relationship at 17.1k. So there is an argument for us potentially coming up to that level, and considering the level of volatility that we're getting at right now, you'll see that the ATR on ATR here is around $600 at the present. You'll see down here 626 roughly is the kind of ATR. So that's a high level of volatility. So yeah, you've got to be cautious with regards to where you put your price levels as to where you're looking for price to find resistance. You've got to give room for that volatility, which is about $600 window there, to allow for a bit of a spike past your predicted level that you think price is going to. So yeah, I'm just keeping an eye. I don't generally like to jump in on highs or lows. I like to see them play out, see how price reacts at that level, and then join the trend, the resultant trend following. There are a couple of key pitchforks that I'm monitoring for this move up, which are pretty useful actually. So there's this one, best seen on the linear scale. So it's been a very, very nice pitchfork. We've been following it in the group. I mentioned it in my last video. So basically, again, if you really home in on the price action here, nothing about it looks particularly impulsive. And it's this bit, to me, that I cannot call it impulsive. It looks like a three-wave-ish move up to here. We've then gone sideways, and then this is a new three-wave move, probably an A, B, C, because each leg, that's looking impulsive, that's looking impulsive. I'd call that an A, B, C. That's looking like a three-wave move up. So you've got a three-wave move up, joined here by an X wave with another three-wave move up. So looking at it essentially as a WXY going higher. And as I say, this pitchfork is working wonderfully well. We've seen first pivot, second pivot, third pivot, shift pitchfork. Nice run into the median line, multiple tests. We then come down and we stay very nicely within the lower warning line, head up to the median line, consolidate beneath it, telling us we're likely to push higher. And now we're finding a little bit of resistance at the upper median line. As I say, I do think we can wick through this upper median line, after which we might be getting a bit of resistance. In terms of timing any trade down, I'd probably be waiting for the price to come beneath this median line to confirm that it's very likely that, you know, we're kind of topping out here on Bitcoin once we come beneath this median line. The other Pitchfork that I'm monitoring is this one, and that one's best seen on the log scale. So this is really following this ABC kind of play out, and on here I'm kind of targeting the upper median line. That's where I think we can come up to. So first pivot, second pivot, third pivot is an original Pitchfork, and yeah, hovered around the lower median line. Nice run up to the median line again, consolidated beneath it, telling us we're likely to go above. It was a very dramatic break above, and then very likely now we get a bit of resistance at the upper median line. So again, giving a bit of confluence around that 16.148 level. So these are all the things that I'm monitoring. As I say, if we manage to get above this level of 16.6 and kind of bull flag at that point, rather than shoot down and get rejected, as I say, if it is to be bearish, it really needs to push down hard when it gets to these levels. And if it fails to do that, you'd have to question whether it is actually going to come down. It could be arguing there's a good show of strength and it is going to push higher from here. So I think that pretty much summarizes everything I wanted to say. Gone through all the main indicators that I'm regarding right now. We've gone through the Elliott wave, Camarilla pivots, the ODBs, fibs, volume, and the general sentiment that we're seeing. We've gone through the catalysts. So I think that's a pretty thorough analysis. And yeah, you may disagree with it. Feel free to put your comments. I'm happy to discuss your queries, and yeah, leave a big thumbs up if you have found value in today's video. Obviously, it does motivate me to produce more if you do find interest in these videos. And yeah, obviously, if you want more in-depth analysis covering the top 15 markets also and on a regular basis, then head over to Cryptology. You can find that in the description to this video. But yeah, I think we will wrap it up there, guys. It is a very interesting time. Let's see how it plays out, guys. All right, take care.